Hey guys, hope everybody's doing well today. Boy, this is a difficult topic, so I want everybody to listen up. And I've got a few notes here so I don't miss anything. We need to talk about estate planning. It's if you're over the age of 40, then you need to have this stuff in place. What I'm going to talk about. Got 8 points for you, and then 2 stories of what happens when things are not set up and in place that I experienced when my parents passed. So all this I'm going to talk to you about is my opinion and based upon experience of having to deal with both my parents passing within the last, I guess the last 5 years. And so 8 points. Of course, heads up, I'm not a lawyer. If you have any questions at all about estate planning, then consult a local estate planning attorney in your area and figure out what you need to do and take care of it. I know it's an awkward conversation to have. It's an awkward topic and subject to think about. Everyone needs to deal with this. If you're 40 or over, really everyone needs to deal with this. I would say if you have kids, or you're 40 or over, you especially need to deal with this. So here we go. Number 1, everyone should have a will. Just my opinion, but everyone should have a will. If you don't have a lot of assets, and maybe you're not married, maybe you don't have kids, you still need a will. But if you don't have a lot, then it's really easy to do this online, with a software or service. A lot of employers will let you have a services available where you could speak to a lawyer or ask questions of a lawyer, and they could help you come up with a will. So if you don't have a lot of assets, see if your employer has that service, or just find something online and do it. Make it simple, get it done. Get it notarized, signed, everything you need to do, and then put it someplace and tell, family member, whoever is probably going to need to deal with your stuff when you pass, when you leave this world. Tell them where that document is, where that will is, so they'll know. Everyone should have a will. Everyone should have a will. Okay, point number 1. Number 2, on the topic of trusts, I'll say you have to decide. You really need to speak with a professional. The type of situations where I've seen people get trusts are where they have special need kids that will need to be provided for, or they have kids and they're a little concerned about them inheriting too much money too early in life, so they're concerned about that being handled responsibly. So, and there are other situations that would be appropriate, maybe based upon you having assets, physical assets like property and vehicles, things of that nature. But I would say that if you're not sure if you need a trust or not, if you don't know, then go ahead and contact a local estate planning attorney and just have a conversation with them. Especially if you have a blended family. I know that can also be problematic when people pass, and hard feelings and all that sort of stuff. So think about talking to a professional if you feel like you might need to have a trust in place. Financial accounts, man. It's really easy and straightforward for your financial accounts. They're not going to be governed by will. They're going to be governed by the beneficiary listed on the account. So for bank accounts, it's POD, which stands for paid on death. You need to have your spouse or your kids listed so that when you pass, that it'll be really easy for them to take a death certificate and go talk to that financial institution and get access to those accounts. If it's a brokerage account, than TOD or transfer on death. Very similar though. Basically you just need to list beneficiaries so that whoever is going to be inheriting those financial accounts will be able to contact that institution and get access to those funds. So PODs, TODs, same thing for retirement accounts, annuities that have payouts, all those things. You just need to make sure that you have beneficiaries listed on there. That's either, your spouse, if you don't have kids, or your kids, or, however you plan to handle that. You need to do that and make sure it's done. If you're not sure, if it's been a long time since you've had an account opened, or you've gotten married or had kids, then check on that. You definitely want to check on that. Advanced healthcare directive, or sometimes referred to as a living will. This is in the event that something happens to you and you're incapacitated. It's really helpful if your loved ones have a document on how you want your life support to be handled. If the doctors say that there's no activity in your brain, but your body's still alive because it's on machines, you really need to have it written out, preferably in advance, right? While you're still healthy, and have your mind and this sort of event's not far off to what do you want done? Do you want every measure, every possible method of keeping you alive, deployed, or do you want your family just to go ahead and pull the plug on machines and let you go? Talk about this stuff. Put it on documents and make sure that your kids or your spouse or whoever might be called upon to make a decision to be able to make a decision. So be sure and do that. By the way, my name is Walter, and this channel exists for those interested in a perspective of early retirement or planning for retirement, or just wanting to live a life of financial independence and freedom. So if you like this content, please consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, leave a comment. It really helps to get this message out to others that might need it. So thanks so much for the consideration. Yeah, you need to decide who the point person is going to be if something happens to you. And there's this document called Power of Attorney, where you could set it up in advance and say, if something happens to me, I'm not able to communicate, or say you have Alzheimer's or kind of lose your mind, who's going to make decisions on your behalf? Again, if you become, kind of later in life or incapacitated, there's different types of power of attorneys. It could be, the scope could be limited to something like a medical, which is, kind of like the advanced directive that I talked about, or living will, but there's this concept of a durable power of attorney. Anyway, consider, if you're getting older and you have one of your kids is going to be the point person as your health declines, to make decisions, to perhaps take care of your finances and be able to pay bills if you're not able to. Well, chances are you're going to want to go ahead and set up a power of attorney, some sort of power of attorney document that gives them the ability to go to a financial institution and say, hey, my parents haven't passed, my mom or my dad or my sister or sibling, whoever, but they're in the hospital and they're unconscious, and I need to be able to take over finances to pay bills and do things of that nature. So consider some sort of power of attorney document to be drawn up and signed, and let that person know, if it's a child, a spouse, or distant relative, that, hey, I want you to be in charge if something goes wrong with me, and here's a document, here's a copy of the document, or this is where I keep the document in the event that something happens to me. So power of attorney. You need to communicate what you want to see happen when you die. I'm talking from everything from you want to be cremated, you want to be, you want to be in a box that's in a grave, do you want a celebration service or a memorial service? What kind of songs do you want sung? I mean, you need to let your loved ones know what you want to see, what you want that end of life, celebration or whatever you want to call it to look like. And they're not going to be able to read your mind. And if you haven't thought about it, then you should think about it. And if you decide, I don't care, have them do what they want, you need to tell your loved ones who would, be the ones that are going to make the arrangements and pull this off. Let them know, hey, I want whatever you guys want. I'm good with it. And I tell you, my parents really did me a favor by going ahead, and they had already made arrangements with a funeral home and prepaid, and they had a plot, and Dad already had custom designed a gravestone and had it made, and it was already in place and just needed, the final dates on it. And boy, I tell you, it's such a relief for all that to be already taken care of. So we could focus on, what type of service we want to have, and what songs, and what's the message we'd like the pastor to give. So, think about that stuff and communicate it. It could be you write it down and say, hey, if something ever happens to me, open this envelope and this is what I'd like to see. But better yet, go ahead. Where do you want to be buried? What kind of stone do you want? If you want a stone, do you want ashes? Go ahead and at least think through and communicate that with your loved ones. If not, go ahead and make those preparations. Go ahead, buy the plots, Go ahead, talk to the funeral home. Go ahead and prepay if you want. If you can't, that's understandable. If you don't have the financial resources to do so, I understand. But you can certainly write up what you want and put it, in an envelope and seal it and let your loved ones know, hey, when something happens to me, open this up and this is what I'd like to see happen. Just, you do your loved ones a real disservice if you don't think through some of this and communicate it, or communicate that you have no preferences, so at least they know that, even if it's going to be on them to make a lot of decisions, because it's a difficult time when you lose a mom or a dad or a loved one, and then all of a sudden you get these barrage of decisions that you have to make about every little thing, and it could be difficult. It really can be. So let's see here. Number 8, final. The final thing is you need to prearrange and let your loved ones know where your documentation is for financial accounts, passwords, for social media. That's something we haven't had to worry about previous years too much. All your online life, so that people can post if you're active on social media. Say, hey, you're no longer here anymore. You've gone. But those the important documents that I already talked previously about a will and a living will, and if there's a trust, all those type of details need to be in a file somewhere, and let your loved ones know where that's at. So if something happens to you, then they'll know where to look to get all the good work and the pre-work you've done. Super important. Man, I just can't stress enough how important all this is. So, okay, I promised 2 stories about what happens when things go awry. My parents had a timeshare for about 20 years over in Branson, Missouri, and we would go over, make an annual visit each year and spend a week. And first it was mom and dad with us kids, and then grandkids, and we enjoyed it, had a fun time. But at the end, they didn't get rid of the timeshare, and none of us wanted it. And then when my mom passed first, and then when my dad passed, man, nightmare. Like, the lawyer's like, I don't know, so, he was happy to try to do something, but it was going to be messy. And lawyers generally, you might find an attorney that specializes in timeshares and getting you out of them, but it's a bad deal. So we ended up, my sister is going and talking directly with the timeshare people, having to spend around $20,000 to change from, we originally had deeds to property and our names had been on it. It was just a messy situation, and it costs money to get us in a situation where we can get out of it. So have a difficult conversation if your parents or your family have timeshare about, do the kids really want it or not? If they don't, then go ahead and get rid of it. And, if it's going to cost money, it costs money, but it's going to be a lot easier for you to get rid of the timeshare than for your kids. So don't do that. Story number 2, my dad, we had moved him from his house he lived in for a long time by himself to an independent living facility, and we were trying to clear out the house, and we found some buyers who wanted to buy it. And so we didn't go a traditional, list it with a real estate agent, since we had already found a buyer. And the buyer's mom was a real estate agent in another part of the state. She kind of did, the basic minimal contract stuff that we needed for just a very, small fee. And we were getting ready, and Dad was getting more sick, and, it was coming closer, and Dad was his health was deteriorating rapidly. And Dad ended up passing the morning of the closing date. So Dad passed like at, sometime between midnight and 2 or 3 a.m., I think. They found him around 4 a.m. He had already passed. And that was the day we were supposed to close on selling his house. And so all that got put on hold, had to hire a lawyer, petition the court to go ahead and finish the sale of the house. And it wasn't fun. Okay. It was kind of a mess. And again, we had to pay lawyers to kind of sort through it at that point. So all that to say is, if you have physical assets like vehicles, houses, things that are not like financial accounts where there's a easy method to list a beneficiary, then think through what you want that to be. Because also, my dad had 2 vehicles. He left a car to me that I didn't want, and he left a truck to my sister she didn't want. So we ended up doing a swap and, exchanging a little bit of money and making sure everybody came away, in a fair trade. But, for vehicles, for houses, some states have a concept of a ladybird deed, where when someone passes, then you can pass the house to, whoever's listed. And I think there's also some states have something similar for vehicles. So just think through that, and make the arrangements ahead of time. It'd be just so much easier on your kids or your loved ones. I can't express enough the urgency to do this stuff, because you are going to die. I hate to be morbid, but you are going to die. I'm going to die, and I don't want to leave a mess to my wife if I go first, or to my kids if my wife goes first and then me. And I know you have loved ones, and you don't want to leave a mess for them either. So that's my message for you. Sorry for the long video. I hope you enjoyed it. So please take this message to heart and act on it. So leave a comment. Do you have a will? Have you put all the arrangements in place for your loved ones? Let me know. Leave a comment. I have on some of these I have not. So I got some work to do, and I bet some of you do as well. So thanks so much for listening and watching the video. Take care, have a good day, and we'll talk again next time. Bye now.